So, this happened last week, and it still feels surreal to me. I'm still processing it. But I guess I'll tell you all the story because I need to get it off my chest. It all started when my family invited me out to dinner for a family gathering. Normally, I don't mind paying for dinner. My parents are getting older and don't have as much to spend. And my sister, well, she's never had a problem freeloading. I usually let it slide, though. But this time, things were different that we went to this really fancy restaurant. Like, the kind of place where a drink costs more than a week's worth of groceries. At first, I thought, okay, it'll be a nice night. I can afford it, whatever. The restaurant's ambience was great, and I was in a good mood. The waiter comes over and takes our orders. And this is where everything goes downhill. My sister, who's always been a little entitled, starts making jokes about how lucky I am to be the one who has to pay. She says, "You're just the wallet, aren't you? We should have brought a suitcase to stuff all the cash in." Everyone laughs. My parents chuckle too, like it's some kind of inside joke, but I could tell it was more than that. It felt like a jab. A little too pointed. I brush it off, thinking maybe they're just in a playful mood. But then, the orders start coming in. My sister orders the most expensive steak on the menu, with all the sides that cost an arm and a leg. My parents? Same thing. My brother orders some ridiculously priced seafood dish that I'm pretty sure isn't even in season. And I'm sitting there, feeling more and more uncomfortable, watching them rack up the bill like it's nothing. I'm no saint. But I've never seen them go this far before. I mean, they've always been a bit generous when it comes to letting me foot the bill, but this was on another level. Finally, my sister turns to me and says with a grin, "Hey, don't worry about it. You've got this. You're just the wallet, right?" Everyone bursts into laughter again, and for some reason, that was the last straw. I kept my smile on, but something in me snapped. I leaned back in my chair and calmly said, "No problem. I got this." But inside, I was boiling. I didn't say anything more. I just pulled out my phone, made one quick call to my business partner, and then stood up. "Where are you going?" my sister asked, still laughing. I just looked at her and said, "You'll find out soon enough." And then, I walked out of the restaurant, leaving the sound of their laughter behind me. I knew they'd think I was just being dramatic, but what I had planned next would hit them in a way they wouldn't see coming. About 20 minutes later, my phone rang. It was my sister. "What the hell? Are you coming back?" she snapped, her voice high-pitched with irritation. I let the phone ring for a few seconds before answering. "Did you think I was joking when I said I'd handle it?" "What do you mean, handle it? You just left. You can't leave us with the bill." I stayed calm, my voice cold. "I didn't leave you with the bill. I just called in a favor." "What favor?" She sounded like she was already panicking. "The bill's been taken care of," I said, my eyes narrowing as I smiled. "You should be getting a call from the restaurant soon." At that moment, I could hear my dad's voice in the background, asking, "What's going on?" followed by my mom's concerned muttering that I could barely hold back my grin. "I'll give you a hint. Do you remember the investment opportunity one mentioned a while back?" "What does that have to do with anything?" my sister demanded. "Stop playing games." "It's simple," I said. "I have a business partner who's very familiar with the restaurant's owner. The manager knows exactly who to call if there's an issue with payment." I paused, letting the weight of my words sink in. Then came the silence. "Are you kidding me right now?" my sister's voice cracked. "You called in a favor? Are you seriously trying to ruin our night?" I could hear my mom now, asking what was happening. "It's fine, Mom. They'll sort it out." But my sister wasn't having it. "You've got to be kidding me. This is humiliating. You can't just leave us with the bill. This is a joke, right?" I shrugged, even though she couldn't see me. "No joke. Have fun." I hung up, satisfied with the chaos I had just unleashed. I hadn't even driven halfway home when I got another call. This time, it was the restaurant manager. "Hi, is this my name? We've just been notified that you've placed a hold on the payment for your family's dinner. We've had to call them to settle the bill. And it looks like your sister has a very surprised look on her face." I couldn't help but laugh. "Yeah, that sounds about right. Look, we're not trying to cause trouble, but if you want us to release the bill, someone's going to need to pay for the food soon. Otherwise, we'll have to charge a late fee. What would you like us to do?" At that moment, I realized something. My sister was about to learn a lesson she wouldn't forget. "You know what? Let them sort it out," I said, my voice dripping with satisfaction. "Just leave it to them. I'm done." The manager hesitated, but I could hear them nodding. "Understood. Thanks for your cooperation." I hung up the phone and leaned back in my seat, feeling a strange satisfaction wash over me. I wasn't sure exactly how this would unfold, but the ball was now in their court. I didn't expect them to take this lying down, but after years of being the wallet, I felt like it was time they finally realized who was really in control. That I was just about to relax when I saw a text come through on my phone from my brother. Are you serious? You just left us here with this mess. What the hell is wrong with you? I sighed. This was just the beginning. I sat back in my car, watching the notifications on my phone flood in. My brother's text was just the beginning. Soon, I started receiving messages from everyone. Sister, are you seriously going to let us sit here while the manager calls us to pay for this? Mom, what did you do? Why did you leave like that? This isn't funny. Dad, you've got some nerve doing this to your family. We're all trying to have a nice meal, and you pull this stunt. But it was my sister's message that really made me laugh. Sister, I can't believe you. You've ruined everything. This is embarrassing. You're just going to let us suffer over your stupid little revenge. I wasn't in the mood to explain myself, so I left the texts unread for a while. Instead, I kept driving, heading to a quiet spot to just breathe. I had no regrets. They had all crossed a line, and maybe it was time for them to feel the consequences. About an hour later, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a call from my sister. Pick up, pick up, pick up, she practically screamed into the phone the moment I answered. Do you realize what you've done? I let her rant for a minute, letting her words swirl in my mind. Yeah, I realize exactly what I've done. You left us to pay for the dinner, and now the restaurant's threatening us with legal action for not paying up, she yelled. This is serious. How could you do this? I could feel the familiar smug satisfaction building in my chest. Isn't it funny how that works? You're not laughing now, are you? She took a deep breath, clearly trying to calm down, but it wasn't working. You have no idea what it's like to be in this situation. We're all stuck, and it's all your fault. Oh, I think I have an idea, I replied, my tone just as cold as hers had been. I've been stuck in the situation where I've had to foot the bill for your entire family's meals for years. It's exhausting. There was a moment of silence. Then my sister, in a quieter voice, said, well, maybe you've been paying too much attention to how much we've been taking and not enough to how much we need help. I felt a flicker of something. Was she actually trying to reason with me? Was she showing some vulnerability? But before I could answer, the floodgates opened again. This isn't fair. You've messed everything up. Everyone is mad at you. You know what? You're not just the wallet anymore. You're the villain. And we won't forget this. I could hear my mom in the background, still trying to talk to the restaurant manager, probably trying to figure out how to smooth things over. I wondered if they'd actually end up paying, or if they'd let this escalate into something worse. You can call me whatever you want, I said, my voice firm. But I'm not the villain here. I've been taking care of this family for years. If you all want to keep taking advantage of me, that's your choice. But don't expect me to just keep letting it happen. There was another long silence before my sister spoke again. I don't know why you're doing this. We're family. We're supposed to help each other out, not make each other suffer. Then maybe you should start helping me out. I shot back. For once. She was quiet for a moment, and for a brief second, I thought she might be reflecting. But then her next words hit me like a punch to the gut. Well, if you think we're just going to let you get away with this, you're wrong. You've made a lot of enemies today. I could practically feel the weight of her anger. It wasn't just about the dinner anymore. This had become something personal, something bigger. I guess we'll see about that, I said coldly. But don't call me for help again. I've got my own priorities now. I hung up before she could respond. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I'd done something right. I didn't need to explain myself anymore. I thought that would be the end of it. I figured they'd all stew in their frustration, maybe pay the bill reluctantly, and eventually get over it. But it didn't go down that way. The next morning, I woke up to a flood of messages again. This time, there was a different tone. Sister, I'm not talking to you anymore. We're done. Mom, I can't believe you did this to your father and me. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us. Dad, you think this is the way families should treat each other? I'm so disappointed in you. I read each message with a sinking feeling, but I stood firm. I had made my choice, and I wasn't backing down. Not this time. But then my phone rang, and I saw my brother's name flash across the screen. I braced myself. Pick up, he said, the moment I answered. Don't hang up. Just hear me out. I crossed my arms, waiting. Go ahead. Look, This is all spiraling out of control, he began. Mom's crying. Dad's about to lose his temper, and now everyone is mad at you. It's like you flipped a switch on them. Why do you have to make things so difficult? My stomach churned. Why do I always have to pick up the slack for everyone? No one asked me if I was okay with paying for everything. No one said thank you for years of doing it. No one even thought about how much I was sacrificing. But now that I've decided to say no, suddenly I'm the villain? He sighed, clearly frustrated. I'm not saying you're the villain, but this isn't the way to handle it. We're a family. Families stick together. You can't just cut us off like this. I felt the old guilt creeping in. Was I being too harsh? Had I gone too far? The thought lingered for a second, but I shoved it away. You think I haven't stuck together with this family? I snapped. I've been holding us all up for years. All I've ever gotten in return is nothing. It's not just about the money, it's about respect. And I've had enough of not getting any. There was a long pause on the other end. Then my brother, softer now, said, I get it. I do. But this isn't just about money. It's about us, the family. And if we don't fix this, it'll destroy everything we've built. I frowned, knowing deep down that he wasn't wrong. But part of me didn't want to go back to the same old pattern. Part of me wanted to see how far they were willing to go, how far they would stretch this family thing when their comfort was on the line. I'm not fixing anything, I said firmly. You all can fix it yourself. Before he could respond, I hung up. I couldn't do this anymore. I couldn't keep being the one to make everyone comfortable at my own expense. An hour later, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was from my mom. Mom, we're coming over to your place to talk. Don't think you can just ignore us. I stared at the message for a long time. I could feel the pressure building. My mom wasn't the type to show up at your door unless things had really escalated. I took a deep breath and decided to let them come. It wasn't long before I heard a knock on my door. I opened it to find my parents standing there, my brother beside them, looking uncomfortable. We need to talk, my mom said, her voice cold but not angry. Now, I stepped aside, letting them in. I could tell things weren't going to go the way I expected. How much longer are you going to keep doing this? My dad asked, not even bothering with small talk. We're not asking you to foot the bill every time. But you don't just leave like that. You don't throw your family under the bus over something like a dinner. I crossed my arms, standing my ground. You've been throwing me under the bus for years. It's time I did something about it. My mom shook her head. You think this is the answer? You think leaving us with a $500 bill is the way to teach us a lesson? I looked at her, feeling the weight of everything I had been holding in. I didn't just leave you with a bill. I left you with a choice. Do you finally realize that you've been taking me for granted? For the first time, I saw the hint of something in my dad's eyes, regret. But it was too little, too late. Maybe you're right, he muttered, looking down at the floor. Maybe we have taken you for granted. But before I could respond, my sister stormed into the room, her eyes blazing with fury. I can't believe you're actually sitting here, acting like you're the victim. You ruined our family, and now you think you've won. I stood up, preparing myself for whatever was coming next. It wasn't over yet, not by a long shot. My sister's eyes were burning with anger as she stormed into my living room, practically shaking with rage. You've ruined everything. Do you think we don't care? You think this is just some game to you? I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm despite the storm brewing in front of me. I had never seen her like this. She was usually so composed, but now she looked unrecognizable. Ruined? Really? I shot back. Tell me, when did you care about what I went through? Or is that just when it's convenient for you? She took a step closer, her voice rising. You're not above this family. You don't get to act like you're the only one who's been giving. Her words hit harder than I expected, but I wasn't going to back down now. Not after everything that had happened. You think I'm above this family? I laughed bitterly, the sound escaping before I could stop it. You've got it all twisted. I'm the one who's been left holding everything, and I'm done pretending it's okay. My mom and dad were standing in the background, completely silent now, letting the argument unfold. It was like they were watching a train wreck they couldn't stop. I glanced at them for a moment, but my focus was on my sister, who was still fuming in front of me. This is how we're going to do it now, huh? She spat. You just walk away, leave us to clean up your mess? You think we won't come for you? You're dead wrong. My heart skipped a beat. There was a dangerous edge to her words. I couldn't tell if it was desperation or something darker. Maybe both. I'm not running anymore, I said quietly, my voice surprisingly steady. For the first time in a long time, I'm not the one cleaning up everyone else's mess. If you're mad at me, fine. But you've had your chance to do better, and now it's on you. Her nostrils flared. You're going to regret this. I could see the storm clouds gathering behind her eyes, but I didn't care anymore. I was tired of being the scapegoat, tired of being the backup plan. It felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders just saying the words out loud. But instead of responding, she turned sharply and walked out of the room. I felt a brief flicker of guilt, but it quickly faded. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. Not this time. My brother, who had been watching quietly, finally spoke up. Look, this is getting out of hand. No one's winning here, okay? His voice was calm, but I could hear the strain in it. I get why you're upset, but we need to fix this. All of us. Not just you, not just her. This family. We need to find a way to move past it. But my patience had already run out. How many times have I tried to move past it? How many times have I been the one to fix everything, only for it to fall apart again? My brother opened his mouth to reply, but I didn't give him the chance. It's over, I said firmly. This was my last attempt to keep pretending everything was fine. From now on, I'm doing what's best for me. There was a long, heavy silence that settled over the room. No one said anything for a moment, the tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. Then my mom finally spoke, her voice low and almost broken. We didn't know it had gotten this bad for you. But if this is how you want it, we'll back off. We'll give you space. Her words were soft, but they didn't feel like an apology. It was more like resignation. And I wasn't sure if that made me feel better or worse that I didn't say anything else. There was nothing more to be said. I told them to get out and close the door. A few days passed. It had been quiet since the night I closed the door on my family. No calls, no texts, nothing. At first, I thought maybe it was just them cooling off, but the silence felt more like the calm before the storm. I had no idea how to feel. Part of me was relieved to have some distance, but part of me, deep down, still missed them. The weight of everything that had happened, the years of manipulation and resentment, still hung over me. Then, it all changed. I was sitting at the kitchen table, scrolling through some random articles, when I heard a knock at the door. It was too early for anyone to be visiting, especially them. My pulse quickened, and I stood up to peek through the window blinds, and there they were. My mom, my brother, and my dad standing on the front porch, all looking like they'd been up for hours. My mom was clutching something in her hand, her expression unreadable, but the tension in the air was enough to make my stomach churn. I hesitated. My first instinct was to turn around and pretend I wasn't home, but the second I even thought about it, I felt my phone buzz on the counter. It was a text from my brother. We need to talk. Please come out. I felt a strange mix of guilt and anger flood me. Talk? After everything, I was done with their games, but this wasn't just a random visit. Something was off. Against my better judgment, I opened the door. The moment I stepped outside, I was hit with that familiar, suffocating sense of obligation, that they needed something from me. My brother was the first to speak. Look, I know things got out of hand last time, but we're here because we need to talk. You can't just walk away from us. We're family. I crossed my arms, trying to hide the shaking in my hands. And why should I listen to any of you? After everything you've put me through, you expect me to just, what? Come back into the fold? My mom looked like she wanted to interrupt, but I held up a hand to stop her. I've been the one to clean up all of your messes, pay for everything, fix things that you broke. You've never respected me. You've only treated me like your backup. Your wallet. I paused, glaring at each one of them, making sure they knew how serious I was. My dad finally spoke, his voice surprisingly calm, but with that heavy undertone of authority. We've all made mistakes, but this isn't the way to fix things. We're here because we want to work it out. You can't just leave us hanging, and I won't let you. The audacity. They didn't even understand why I was upset. They still thought I was in the wrong. Why Mom took a step forward, holding something in her hand, something wrapped in a cloth. She looked at me with those pleading eyes, the ones she'd used countless times before to guilt me into doing what they wanted. We got this for you, she said softly, unwrapping the cloth. It was an old family photo album. I stared at it, feeling a pang of nostalgia. But that was it. Just a feeling. I wasn't going to let it cloud my judgment again. I wasn't going to fall for their guilt trips. You think a photo album is going to fix everything? Do you really believe that? My brother scoffed. We're trying to make amends here, and you're acting like a child. This isn't helping anyone. I felt my blood boil. You don't get it. You've never gotten it. This isn't about some stupid album. This is about you using me, manipulating me, and making me feel worthless all these years. There was a long silence. I could see the crack in my dad's calm facade, a flicker of frustration behind his eyes. I didn't raise you to walk away from family, but if you think we're just going to let you do this. I took a deep breath, looking each one of them in the eyes. I'm not coming back. I'm not going to keep being the person you can manipulate and take advantage of. The air was thick with tension now. My brother was grinding his teeth, his fists clenched at his sides. My mom was on the verge of tears, but I couldn't bring myself to care that I turned around and started walking back toward the door. My dad called after me, his voice rising with each step I took. You think you can just leave us like this? You'll regret this. You'll come crawling back, just like you always do. I didn't even look back that I slammed the door behind me, the sound echoing in the quiet house. But just as I was about to walk away, I heard something else, this time from my brother. A harsh, angry whisper, barely audible, but enough to make my blood run cold. You'll pay for this. We'll make sure of it. And then the sound of their footsteps fading as they walked back to the car. I stood there, my back pressed to the door, breathing hard. I wanted to lash out, to scream, but I knew it wouldn't change anything. They were going to keep trying to drag me back into their world, but I wasn't having it. I took out my phone, opened the contact list, and tapped on the family group chat. I was done being the fallback. I typed, "This is it. I'm cutting ties with all of you. I'm not your backup anymore. I've given enough. If you can't respect that, then don't reach out again." I hit send and placed the phone back in my pocket, feeling the weight of my decision settle in. I wasn't waiting for them to apologize. I wasn't waiting for some perfect family reunion that would never come. They could try all they wanted to guilt trip me, to pull me back into their drama. But that chapter of my life was over. I had finally let go. So, that's where I stand now, cutting ties and walking away. What do you think? Was I wrong for doing this? Or should I have given them another chance? Let me know what you think in the comments below.